Hey guys, it's Nicole. I'm back with another video, and today's video is going to be about a book that I read such a long time ago, and the reason why is because the book that I'm currently reading that I can't wait to make a video about, I'm not done with yet. I have had just a lot of little bumps in the road lately with my reading schedule, so I haven't finished the book that I wanted to talk about. So I'm going back into my reading past and finding some books that I definitely loved back then and wanted to talk about now that I maybe forgot about, didn't get a chance to, couldn't find the book because, again, like I said, I don't have a great storage system for my books currently. So that's the kind of book we're going to be talking about today. However, before we get to that, if you have subscribed to my channel, thank you so much. All of you mean so much to me, and I'll say it all the time, every single week, because it's 100% true. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, that's okay, I'm not mad, but you should subscribe. It's so easy, just click the button. It costs absolutely nothing, and you'll get notified anytime I upload new videos. And even though I have a schedule, you never know if that'll change. So please subscribe. If you end up liking this video, please like, comment, and share. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to know if these are books that you like hearing me talk about. If you have any suggestions for other books for me to read, I want to hear your thoughts. And please share this video because you never know who else might enjoy it. So getting into the book we're talking about today, I read this book so many years ago. I actually could not tell you when I might have been in high school at the time, honestly, or maybe fresh out of high school. It's a genre that I still am obsessively reading to this day, and probably actually one of the first books that kind of got me into the genre. So the book we're talking about today is fiction, but also a little bit of historical fiction in there as well. I can't attest to how much any of the historical facts in this book are actually true. All I know is it deals with history and fiction, so it's in the historical fiction genre, which is still one of my favorite genres to this day. And this is one of the books that first introduced me to that and why I love it so much. And the title is really what got my attention and why I picked it up in the first place. So the book we're talking about today is called Just One Damn Thing After Another by Jodi Taylor. And I just am obsessed with the title because even before picking this book up and after, constantly just in life, I'm like, it's just one damn thing after another. And I was immediately like, this book has to be some sort of comedy, but also just what else could it be about, because it's just so funny. So yes, the author is Jodi Taylor. I actually don't know much about her. I would have to look her up because there is a little bit about the author in and on the back of the book, but it doesn't give you much, and we'll go into why. We'll get there. But going just based on the cover, the other thing that's part of this is underneath the title, it does say The Chronicles of St. Mary's, and that doesn't mean anything right now, just based on the cover, but it will mean something later. Obviously, that means it's part of a series, because Chronicles always means series. There is a review quote at the bottom, like the very bottom right corner, that says, "A carnival ride through laughter and tears with a bit of time travel thrown in for spice." And that's by Publishers Weekly Starred Review. So I don't even think I read that review quote when I first picked this book up. Again, the title was really what absolutely sold me on this book, honestly. And then I probably took a slightly closer look at, what else is going on the cover. So the bottom half has this kind of, it's like a clock, but it's like a staircase, like a spiral staircase, like going down, which does make you think time travel, or at least something to do with time. So that, other than that, I don't know what else this specific symbol would mean, especially just looking at the cover. But then on the top half of the cover, you have honestly, it's kind of like a conglomeration of different historical places, I want to say. There's different buildings and possibly even a Revolutionary War going on one side on a beach. And then, I don't even know what the building is. It looks like some sort of ancient Roman building, but I'm not positive what kind of building that could be. And then there's a statue, someone like a discus thrower that, So basically like a conglomeration of mostly probably European history. just based on what I'm looking at. So I was immediately just completely sold. I loved the title. And then I'm looking at the top going, I don't know what all these things have to do with one another, but I'm very curious. So the interesting thing is, I'm gonna go to the back now, but as I'm looking at the back, at the very top left corner of the back of the book, it says science fiction, which would make sense based on the time travel aspect. Historical fiction was how I first described this, but science fiction also kind of fits into it with the time travel part. So I think you could call this science fiction and then little bits of who knows how accurate history sprinkled in. So getting to the back of the book, at the very top before getting to the actual blurb, it says the best-selling British madcap time-traveling series that seems to be everyone's cup of tea. So when I first picked this book up, didn't know that this was British. Why would I guess that? That's not something I immediately guess. I'm like, I would just pick up a book and never think about it. And then I don't remember if they say where St. Mary's is, but as I read the book, there were certain words and phrases that I'm like, this is British, because we don't say that here. I think I was skimming the book just before I turned the camera on just to refresh my memory, so I'm like kind of remembering the characters' names and what happened. And one of the things that popped up was treacle tart, and I'm like, oh, that's British. That is very British. It's possible that people have it imported here, but that's not a common thing, and it made it sound very common here because it's like, oh, it was just something that someone made for lunch, and that's not something that people do here. So I was like, that is British. But yeah, when I first just picked this book up, I had no idea that it was British, but it is. But anyway, going ahead and getting into the blurb. This book has a nice lengthy blurb. Behind the seemingly innocuous facade of St. Mary's Institute of Historical Research, a different kind of academic work is taking place. Just don't call it time travel. These historians investigate major historical events in contemporary time. And they aren't your harmless eccentrics either. A more accurate description, as they ricochet around history, might be unintentional disaster magnets. The first thing you learn on the job at St. Mary's is that one wrong move and history will fight back, sometimes in particularly nasty ways. But as new recruit Madeline Maxwell soon discovers, it's not only history they're often fighting. The Chronicles of St. Mary's tells the chaotic adventures of Max and her compatriots, Director Bairstow, Chief Leon Farrell, Mr. Markham, and many more, as they travel through time, saving St. Mary's too often by the very seat of their pants, and thwarting time-traveling terrorists, all the while leaving plenty of time for tea. So British. From 11th century London to World War I, from the Cretaceous period to the destruction of the Great Library at Alexandria, one thing is for sure. Wherever the historians at St. Mary's go, chaos is sure to follow in their wake. And as I'm reading this back, it reminds me that one of the first clues that this was a British work, or at least took place there, was that when they referenced historians in the book, they would always say an historian instead of a historian, which is very British. In America, we say a historian, and then in, England and Britain and UK, they say an historian. And I'm pretty sure that has something to do with the way they pronounce it, probably, because we say a historian because we treat H's as consonants, but I'm thinking in the way British people speak, it's more closer to vowels, like an historian, like they kind of glide over the H. That's my guess as to why we pronounce those things differently and why there's an A instead of an an, but that was my first clue as to why this was British. So as you can tell, it is quite the plot. It is so fun. I feel like such a nerd because I'm just like, oh my god, they're time traveling to history and doing all these things, and it just sounds so much fun to me. If I could ever pick a job that doesn't exist, it would be this job. I love history so much. I love stories so much. I love just adventures, and that's literally what their job is at St. Mary's. It's the St. Mary's Institute for Historic Research. I just love the description of the book, and it's making me, I picked this book up when I was going, now I have another one of the books I want to add to my reread pile. I want to reread this one again. It's just such a fun book. It's just such a fun concept, and that's why I really loved it. Now, the funny part about the author and the way that the author is described on the back of the book, and even kind of in the back of the book, is this is very clearly a comedy based on the title alone, right? I mean, just one damn thing after another, like that's not going to be something serious. And then, as you can tell kind of from the blurb, like there's little inserts here and there that are kind of comedic. So this is a comedy. It's science fiction, but it's not drama. It's comedy. And more than that, it's British comedy. British comedy is quite different from American comedy, or at least it kind of seems that way to me. British comedy is a lot more dry. It's a lot more sarcastic. It's, you know, it's actually how a lot of my family communicates, because in particular, one of my family members was from England, and so that's just how we communicate. And it's kind of why I like that kind of humor, because I grew up with it. And this description will prove my point. Jodie Taylor, because this is the very bottom, Jodie Taylor is and always has been a history nut. Her Chronicles of St. Mary's, a wild mix of history, adventure, comedy, romance, tragedy, and anything else the author could think of, began as a self-published book called Just One Damn Thing After Another. It's now a best-selling, wildly addictive series. The sequel, A Symphony of Echoes, is coming soon. It's already been out. This was published in like 2013, so it's been out. The whole series is out. And I'll go into why I'm not talking about the whole series, but first I also wanted to go into the other about the author part, because it's just really funny. Because again, it's not even, you don't even actually get to know like the normal things you know about, you get to read about an author, because it's like, it's just there for comedy. Like, listen to this. In the back of the book, there's a page that says about the author, and this is what it says, okay? Jodie Taylor, who also writes as Isabella Barclay, is and always has been a history nut. Her disinclination to get out of bed for anything after 1485 can only be overcome by massive amounts of chocolate, and sometimes, if it's raining, not even then. She wanted to write a book about time travel that was a little different, and not having a clue how difficult this would make her book to classify, went ahead and slung in elements of history, adventure, comedy, romance, tragedy, and anything else she could think of. Her advice to booksellers is to buy huge numbers of her books and just put one on every shelf. The result is the story of the St. Mary's Institute of Historical Research and the nutters who work there. Like, see, like, you get to know, like, a little bit about her, because she's, like, clearly has a really good sense of humor, and is, like, went about this herself, and it may not have been the best way to go about things, because it was kind of hard to classify the genre of this book, and you can see why I kind of struggled with that in the beginning. And so she kind of goes about it in a comedic way to write her about the author little excerpts at the back, and I love that so much. It just makes me love the author even more. So the reason I'm only talking about this book and not the whole series is because the truth is I actually read part of the series. When I first started reading the series, I think it was not long before I went to college, and then when I went to college, I didn't have too much time to read extra books, let alone a series of books, especially because it gets crazy intense, like the adventures and everything that's going on in this series, like towards the end, like with the end of books. So I know I read the first 3 for sure, but I don't think I read the last, I'm trying to remember how many books there are. I know there's like a page here that kind of lists it. Yeah. There's like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish, 8, either 7 or 8 books, because there's like a space between one of them. I'm not sure. So I think it's 7 books. And I'm pretty sure I read the first 3, possibly the first 4. And that's why I'm not doing the whole series today. I'm just doing this book. After college and after I finally had the time to start getting into series, I was like, oh my, I do want to continue and finish the series, but it's been so many years at this point that I kind of have to go reread the whole series now, because it's been so long. Like, sure, I remember like the generic details of the book. That's why I'm talking about it today and why I like it so much. But if I'm going to read the rest of the series, I need to get back into the little details, into the nitty gritty to get to the rest of the series. So that's why we're not talking about the rest of the books today. I figured we'd just get into the first book just so I could introduce this particular series and this book, because this book is so good. Like, it's a great first book. It world builds a little bit. Like, you gotta have some world building in like a series that has some sort of science fiction or even magic like element. This is science fiction, so world building has to be part of it, and I like that it's part of it, but it's not all of it, and that it's just enough to get you into the like world of it, but then you're like, now we're into the adventures, and that is what I'm here for. So it's so good. By the way, I'm sorry if I sound like stuffy or anything. I'm currently fighting something off, and it is draining my energy a little bit, but I am still well enough to record. But if I sound stuffy, I am a little bit under the weather. So before I give any other thoughts or spoilers on it, I'm just going to go ahead and show. So when you first open the book, and you get the other books by the same author, I love her so much. There is a little quote here from the author in one of the very first pages. It says, "I made all this up. Historians and physicists, please do not spit on me in the street." And then signed Jodi Taylor. I just love that so much. She's like, look, I made all this up. Like, don't hate me. It's fiction. Remember that. And there's also a quote here from someone where she actually got the title, like, from Just One Damn Thing After Another. History is Just One Damn Thing After Another. And that's by Arnold Toynbee. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, but she got the title kind of from that quote, I guess. There are a couple of pages that list all of the characters, what they do at St. Mary's. So that's helpful because there are a lot of characters in this kind of story. So each chapter is pretty simple. It just has the number at the top, just 1. So chapter 1, this is just the first page. I'm not going to go any further. Chapter 1, there have been 2 moments in my life when everything changed. Moments when things could have gone either way. Moments when I had to make a choice. The first occurred when, after another disruptive day at school, I stood in front of my head teacher, Mrs. De Winter. I'd done the sullen silence thing and waited for expulsion because I was long past 3 strikes and you're out. It didn't happen. Instead, she said with a strange urgency, "Madeline, you cannot let your home circumstances define your entire life. You're intelligent. You have abilities of which you are not even aware. This is the only chance you will ever have. I can help you. Will you allow me to do so?" No one had ever offered to help me before. Something flickered inside me, but distrust and suspicion die hard. She said softly, "I can help you. Last chance, Madeline. Yes or no?" No words came. I was trapped in a prison of my own making. Yes or no? I took a huge breath and said yes. She handed me a book, a notepad, and 2 pens. We'll start with ancient Egypt. Read the first 2 chapters and chapter 6. You must learn to assimilate, edit, and present information. I want 1,500 words on the precise nature of Maat, M-A'-T, by Friday. And I'm not going to go any further because then we're just going to read the whole chapter. But that is the first page. Obviously, we're kind of in the perspective of the main character, Madeline. We learn later on she goes by Max. Her name is Madeline Maxwell, so she goes by Max. And she is the main character. She's the one giving the narrative, and we're in her head. And then we go on the adventures of how she comes to be part of St. Mary's. It's so fun. It's such a fun adventure book. Like, if you're just looking for a good time, like just to read a book and just go on an adventure, like, this is a really good one. It's so up there for me. There is a little bit of drama and romance, but it's not like overwhelmingly so. Like she says on the back, it's like she throws in all kinds of different elements into this book, but they're not overwhelming. To me, the overwhelming genre of this book is like science fiction, comedy, and obviously a little bit of history like sprinkled in there, whether how accurate it is. Same thing with the science fiction, because that's why it's called fiction, because it's like, I don't know how accurate any of this is. Like, how would that work with the time travel thing? Like, But again, it's for fun. It's just go on the adventure, get sucked into the story. That's it. So if you're looking for one of those books, highly recommend this one. I think you will absolutely enjoy it. I don't really think I have any other general thoughts about it other than that. So I think I'm just going to stop it there. I really don't have any kind of spoilers to get into with the book, honestly, because for me, this isn't a book that I need to think very deeply about. Does that make sense? It's not something that I read that's going to suddenly give me an epiphany, like, oh, like, you know what I mean? It's not that kind of book. It's pure adventure and entertainment. Don't get me wrong, there are aspects of the book that are like, it's good for you to read because, one, especially if you're not from the UK or anywhere near that area, a lot of this is going to sound like foreign because it is. And reading anything from a different country than yours is smart because you're exposed to a different mindset, whether it's fictional or not, that is totally different from yours. And that's just always a good thing to do. So yes, there is that aspect of this. But other than that, I don't really have any actual thoughts that are deep, provocative thoughts on the book and how it's written itself. I think, if anything, this is not spoiler related. All I'll have to say is I loved the way the characters are written because they're just they're really funny people, don't get me wrong, but they're also, all of them feel very real. And so I will say that the author really did such an amazing job making all of the characters feel like real people. So even though there are a lot, which is why it's helpful to have that little list to go back to and be like, wait, who is this again? It is very helpful for that. But she makes every single one of them feel like a real person. And so that was really fun. And then the other thing I loved so much is that all of the women characters in the book are strong and funny and intelligent. And even if they're not the ones in charge, like in name, they are the ones in charge. And it just feels very real and accurate. So it's just really smart, funny, full of adventure, and it's a really good time, honestly. Wherever you're from, whatever your background is, this is a good time. This is a really fun read, honestly. So if you're looking for something fun to read, something to put a smile on your face, to take the weight off, like, because the weight of the world is on all of our shoulders lately, at least that's how I feel, this is a really good one to read. So I do recommend it. Those are my thoughts. Honestly, if I had to put this like somewhere near if I had to rank all of the books I've ever read in my life, this would be really close to the top. That's how much I like it. So definitely go check it out. But that's all for this week's video. Not going to say anything else. Please go check out the book if you think you might enjoy it. And if you have already read it, please let me know. Like, please comment below. I want to find other fans of this series. It's such a good one. I am going to start it over and finally finish it, but I want to find other people who really enjoy it. So please comment below. But that's all for this week's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.